Hello, I'm Samantha Hope and I'm the Graduate Recruitment Manager at Shoosmiths. Today I'm joined by Janine and we're going to be talking a little bit about Janine's experience at Shoosmiths as a trainee and a qualified solicitor and what that has led her to do in her career since. We're going to talk about her business, LightBOX Coaching, and her podcast, Careers Beyond Motherhood. So I'm going to get onto that in a second, but I just wanted to say a really big Happy New Year to you all. And I thought, given that we're at the start of January in the new year, it would be great to think about what our New Year's resolutions are and what your goals are to achieve this year. So my question to you, to type into the comments now, is have you set yourself a goal? What is it? Share it with us now and just type it into the comment box to let us know. I guess ours at Shoosmiths is really simple, is to be engaging with you, sharing really useful advice with you throughout the year and building upon the Shoosmiths Live platform that we've already created. And a part of that will be getting on amazing guest speakers like Janine as well. So Janine, have you set yourself any goals?
I have. I will share two of the goals that I've set. So one is that I want to work with 10 law firms this year to help them to support their women returning to work after maternity leave or their parents. And the other one is I want to go to bed earlier. So I'm setting myself a bedtime. My children have one, so I'm setting one for myself.
Yeah, perfect. So I think one of the things that we'll come on to talk about is how important it is to have good boundaries in your life and making sure that you have time for work, you have time for play, and you have time to reset and sleep as well. So I guess that feeds into that.
Absolutely.
One of my personal sort of goals for this year is just to become a bit more organised in the life admin space. So I feel like I kind of got work sorted, I've got my social sorted, but sometimes things like dealing with paperwork in the house and filing your bills away, that sort of thing, takes a bit of a back seat. So I want to get a bit better at being organised with those sorts of things. Okay, so before I ask Janine to introduce herself, I would love for you just to tag a friend or a colleague into the comments who you think should be watching this video today. So we're going to be talking a bit about work-life balance, sharing some tips for you on how you can achieve that balance as a trainee solicitor or if you're returning to work after having a family. If people can't come on and watch live now, that's okay. They can come back and watch this video. It will be shared onto our Facebook page, onto Janine's Facebook page, and also to YouTube later today. So perhaps you've got a friend who's trying to get into a career in law, who'd like some more information about Shoosmiths, who is about to have a baby, or who is about to go back to work after a maternity leave. Whoever it is, just tag somebody into the comments now and they'll hopefully come along and watch this video. So today, as I've said, I'm joined by Janine and I'm going to hand over for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where your career started and how you've got to today.
Okay, so as Sam said, my name is Janine Esbrand and my journey in law started quite some time ago now. I started as a trainee solicitor here at Shoosmiths and I qualified into the corporate team. So I worked as a corporate lawyer for a few years and then I transitioned into working in-house. So now I work as in-house legal counsel for an international oil company. I do that on a part-time basis and I also run my coaching business where I support women and sometimes men with their transitions in their careers post-parenthood. So that's really where I am now.
Okay, cool. So I was really keen to see you again because when I first joined Shoosmiths 8 years ago, just over 8 years ago, you were a trainee here in the Reading office, which is where we're filming today. So let's talk a little bit about why you chose Shoosmiths to be a trainee solicitor at.
Okay, so it's really funny because when I was thinking about why did I choose Shoosmiths, it's really because work-life balance was something that was really important to me. And so when I was looking at firms, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a good lawyer, but I also wanted to make sure that I had time to do other things that were important to me. And Shoosmiths offered that. It is very much a firm that did what it said on its website. So it said a lot about work-life balance, but when I interacted with lawyers here and I came here, I realised that that was actually true. And the attitude towards work was we worked hard, but if you didn't have anything to do, go home. And so that was one of the reasons. And also the training was really good, and I had the opportunity to get really hands-on in my training. So I wasn't just photocopying, I wasn't just doing research, I was dealing with clients. I got the opportunity in my second seat of my training contract to go on secondment. So I spent 6 months at RBS on secondment, and really got the opportunity to work with clients pretty early on in my career, which I think is unique for some people when it comes to training contracts. And so that's what I really enjoyed about training here at Shoosmiths.
Okay, fantastic. So actually it's funny you mentioned your secondment, because when so as a graduate recruitment manager, I'd go out and meet our trainees who are on secondment and just check in with you and make sure you're okay and getting on okay in this kind of the client's business. And one of the places that I think that we met for lunch was called Pill Pill.
Yes,
like around Liverpool Street area.
Yes.
And do like these amazing wraps and
it's
salads
so nice.
and
So
halloumi. And honestly, just craving that right now. Always remember that. So you've got 2 beautiful little children.
Yeah.
So tell me, was that the reason you decided to set up your own coaching business?
Yes, part of the reason. So I decided I wanted to be a coach because I wanted to help people on more of a personal level. And so I did my certification alongside my legal career. But it wasn't until I had my son that I really thought, I'm going to make this into a business. And there's something about becoming a parent and birthing a human that makes you think, well, if I can do this, then I can create a business. I can do whatever I want. And so I think having my son was really the catalyst for me saying, why not? Why won't I do this now? I qualified into corporate because I was really interested in business, and I always have been. And so becoming an entrepreneur and running my own business is something that I'm really excited about, because I worked with so many people that were doing it and I advised them in a legal capacity, and now to be doing it myself is really fun, really exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so just skipping back a little bit to talking about qualifying into corporate. Corporate is notorious for being an area that's hard work, long hours, late nights. What would you say to trainees or future trainees that are thinking that corporate might be too difficult to do because of those reasons?
I would say that it is true that there are long nights and there is hard work to be done, but it really depends on your personality and what you enjoy. I'm somebody who likes to look at a problem and think, how are we going to do this, and then come through the other side and say, wow, we achieved that. So with corporate, you really get that sense of achievement when you've completed a deal, and it is full on, but there are peaks and troughs. So you're not going to be on a deal consistently. So when you're not on a deal, you will have more time available to do what it is you want to do. So don't think you're going to be constantly, working until early hours of the morning. It might happen, but it's not going to be all the time.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that you can ask me or Janine a question at any time. All you need to do is type it into the comments box, and we will come back around to your questions towards the middle of this video. So you can type them at any time and we'll come back to you. So Janine, your business is called LightBOX Coaching, and you've also got a podcast called Careers Beyond Motherhood. But tell me a little bit more about the aims of your business and what you're doing for 2019.
Yeah. So the aim of my business is really in the name. So I believe that everyone has a lot of potential for them to be able to achieve their goals and what it is they want to do, but often they need someone to shine a light on that potential, and then they also need the tools to make it happen. And so LightBOX, unpacking the box. And so right now my focus is really supporting parents who want to continue the careers that they worked so hard to build beyond motherhood. For a lot of people, they work so hard to get to where they are, and then they become a parent and feel like they need to stay at home with their children, or they can't continue their career. And I want people to know that it is possible. If you have the right tools and strategy in place, you can make it work. So in 2019, I'm really focusing on promoting my course, which is called the Smooth Return course, and offering it to organizations so that they can help their people who are on maternity leave to go through the course and the process to get them fully prepared for life as a working parent. And then I have a monthly membership community which offers ongoing support for working parents so we have guest experts come in, we talk about different topics like time management, like planning in your career, negotiations, that kind of stuff. And so I want to be growing that membership as well in 2019. So those are my two focuses for the business going forward.
Okay, fantastic. So you do quite a few Facebook Live videos. We're doing this one now. You do a lot on LinkedIn. I've seen you doing videos on Instagram. So you're really familiar with sharing advice and sharing information with people out there, which is great and is what we're all about at Shoosmiths Graduates as well. And I wondered really, a lot of the advice that you'll be sharing is to help people overcome challenges and get back to work. But what is the most common worries that you find lawyers have after they've had some parental leave?
I think one of the big things is that people go through a transition when they're off. So often people take maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year off, and that's a long time. And during that period, you've gone from being an ambitious working person to being a parent, and that's a huge transition. So when they come to thinking about going back to work, people lack confidence around whether or not they can still do the job that they trained to do. And that's a huge piece, because if people aren't confident that they can do it, it sometimes leads to them saying, actually, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it happen. And I see that as one of the biggest challenges for people, just overcoming that kind of feeling that I can't do this, it's not possible. And so yeah, helping them to see that it is possible is really important to me.
Yeah, I took a year off when I had my little boy Josh, and I think I was ready to come back to work, even though I'd absolutely loved spending time bringing him up for that first year. But when I came back, yeah, I was definitely ready to be back in working life. But I certainly know some of my friends weren't ready and didn't feel they had the confidence to be going back at that stage. Some chose to go back part-time, some full-time, some didn't go back. So it's a real mixture. It's a very personal thing, I think, isn't it, in terms of your circumstances, your family set up, and also just the way that you feel about your career, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to say is how you feel before is not necessarily going to be how you feel after. So I was convinced that I would just have my baby and then go straight back into working as a corporate lawyer, and then I met him and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to work part-time. Whereas before I thought I would just want to go back, work full-time and work towards partnership. And so my career has shifted because I had a shift in perspective, and that happens for some people and it doesn't happen for others. So it's important not to necessarily make firm decisions before you're actually in that scenario.
I think anybody that's had a baby can certainly say there's a number of things that they said they would or wouldn't do once they had a baby, and then maybe they changed their mind on it.
Absolutely.
So we certainly decided, well, our child will not have chocolate until the age of 5, and he's now 2 and he can have chocolate.
Well, we did that
for 5 minutes, quiet.
We did that with my son, so we did manage not to give him chocolate. But now my daughter, like, she's had so many things that he wasn't allowed to have because we give it to him. So she's like, mine, and she'll take it and eat it. I'm like, oh, what can we do? So things definitely change.
Yeah, you've got to have a bit of open-mindedness. This year has been a really big year for highlighting the gender pay gap and the big or the little pay gaps that there are between women and men, and particularly in the legal profession. So one of the reasons that people see that as why there's a gap is because women have been more traditionally the ones to take time out of their career and therefore are sort of lagging behind the men a couple of years. But obviously there's now things in place, initiatives in place in different businesses to address that, and one of those is shared parental leave. So are you seeing many people or couples and businesses taking advantage of shared parental leave?
I think it's unfortunate that it's there and it's available, but people aren't necessarily taking it up as much. I think there was a study done recently that showed that in places like Sweden and other places in Europe, it's very popular, but here I think it's like 1% of people are taking up shared parental leave. So I think it's because it's new. I think it's also because there's a stigma attached to men who are taking time out. People thinking maybe they're not as committed to their careers if they decide to take some time out. So I think with time and with more men advocating the importance of it and also the benefits of it. So recently on my podcast I interviewed my husband, and he had some time out where he got the chance to spend time with my daughter, and he talked about how much it made a difference to their relationship just spending time with her. And I think if more men can talk about the benefits, then others will be more, wanting to take it up. So I think we need to just push that, because if a woman takes a year out, it's a lot different to taking like 3 or 6 months out. And it's great if both parents can have that time with their children and get a chance to do that bonding and have that fun time with them.
Yeah, and I think parents are now much more equal in the home. In terms of the way that the home setup is and things are managed, chores and all of that. So it isn't really the women that are primary carers as much as it used to be. So it is only fair that men should get the chance to spend that bonding time with a child. One of my friends, one of our best friends is pregnant, congratulations, and she is sharing her parental leave with her husband.
Love it.
So they're taking 6 months each, and she said that she's all for equality and women's rights, and so why not be the one to do that and sort of show that it can be done. So I'm very proud of them as a couple that they're going to do it. I did say to her, you're very generous to be giving some of your maternity leave away, and she rightly corrected me and said, well, it's not generosity because it's 2 weeks the man would normally get to spend with the baby, so actually it's just fairness. And she is absolutely right. So but really nice, because I don't know anybody else that's done shared parental leave, so actually it's really nice to see them doing it. So for our viewers, so many of them will be trainee solicitors or coming up to being a trainee or be at the start of their careers, so might not be thinking necessarily about having a family now, but obviously that's something that they might want to think about in the future. Is there any, how can they basically plan that in now? Is there anything they can be doing to think ahead?
Yeah, I think I would recommend a resource for you. So there is a book called Baby Proof Your Career, and it's written by a fellow coach called Caroline Flanagan. And what I love about what she talks about is that you don't necessarily have to wait until the time that you're ready to have a child to put things in place. So one of the things that you can be doing is really thinking about building your network. It's really important for you to get known in your field for what you do. So when you start out as a trainee and as you start as an NQ, it's not just about getting your head down and doing your work. Start thinking about how you can be contributing to your practice area, get really known within your firm and also within your industry, so you become somebody that everybody sees as an asset to the organisation or to your industry. And so when you come back and maybe you might want to be seeking some flexibility, you're more likely to get a yes if the firm can see that you're somebody that they want to hold on to and they want to encourage to progress. So that's just like one thing that you can do, but there's lots of other things that you can do in terms of thinking about how do I start planning before we actually get to that point.
So what was that book called?
It's called Baby Proof Your Career.
Okay.
And it's by Caroline Flanagan.
Okay, cool. So we'll share the link to that book in the comments after this video as well.
Yeah.
And you've had Caroline on as a...
Yes, so she's been a guest on my podcast. So I interview different women, and I've had a few men on the show as well, about their experiences with their careers beyond becoming a parent. And so she was one guest who came on. And so if you want to check that out, you can go to lightboxcoaching.com/podcast, and you can find the episode where I interviewed her. I think it's episode 23, but...
Okay, don't worry, we'll share that as well. So if somebody wants to learn a bit more about LightBOX Coaching, learn about your challenge that you've got coming up, where can they go to find out more about that, and where can they sign up to your membership? Yeah,
so if you connect with me on LinkedIn is one thing. I'm on there pretty much every day now, and if you want to head over to lightboxcoaching.com, that's my website. So at the moment I'm promoting a balanced working mum challenge, which is going to be starting next week, and the aim of the challenge is to help you to take small simple steps that will lead to you feeling more balanced in how you're managing work and family life. And yeah, if you want to sign up to the membership, reach out to me. The doors are not always open, so they open and close, and so I'd be happy to welcome you on board with the other collective members who are doing awesome things.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to remind you that you can ask myself or Janine a question at any time. Just type it into the comments box and we will answer those very shortly. So thank you for sharing all of that insightful advice so far. Now I wanted to ask, do you have any questions that you would like to ask me?
Yeah, so I had 2 questions that I had written down. So obviously Shoosmiths, I came to the firm because of work-life balance, and I think it's doing loads of great things. So do you have many working parents at the moment in the firm?
Yeah, so we absolutely do. Many working parents. full-time, part-time, and flexible working as well. So you'll know that we've recently introduced agile working, which means that we have a bit more flexibility around the way or where we work, as in when we need to be in the office and when we perhaps can work from home, or other office locations. So that can really help, I think, you manage your time. So for myself, for example, on a day where I might need to collect my son from nursery if my husband's working away, then I can work from home in that day, and it makes it easier to make that collection time for him rather than travelling in from another office. So there's things like that are going on. One or two of our partners in our Manchester office in real estate, they job share. So that's a really like a great story, I guess, of two people who are very senior in their role,
Awesome.
but that are managing family life and a successful career by job sharing.
That's brilliant. And so for most of your viewers are going to be trainees or soon to be trainees. So what does the firm do in terms of support through the different transitions? So being a NQ is very different to being an associate and then senior associate. So what kind of support do you offer as people are progressing through there?
Yeah. So I think it's really important as a trainee, if you want to be, to try and be quite open and transparent about your commitments that you might have outside of work, and simply to ask if there's any flexibility around, say, hours or that sort of thing that might assist you, because I think it all seems very rigid as a trainee, but sometimes you just need to ask. In our first year trainee group, we've got two of our female trainees are mothers, which is nice, and a couple of we've got a couple of fathers in that group as well. So I know we have a bit of a flexibility around some of their hours and logging on at home, so that they can manage their home life as well. In terms of the support, you've got the support networks from the graduate recruitment team, your own team, the whole trainee cohort, the HR team. So there's a lot of support and guidance around, and I think, so in terms of NQ, I'm guessing, the work is getting tougher maybe. You might have a bit more commitment. You might have supervisory responsibilities to then trainees once you get to that level. So there's a bit more to juggle. We do have a couple of resources like mindfulness and a number of other resources on our intranet that can help you to stay organised in terms of keeping those boundaries from when is work and when is home, and making sure you're managing your own time in that way as well.
Brilliant. I love that. It's good.
Okay, perfect. So let's see if we've got any questions that have been asked. So just bear with me while I have a little look. Let's see. So Hannah has asked, is there a social culture within the firm? For example, do trainees often socialise together after work? So Hannah, I think it depends a little bit on which office you're in, and also your trainee group and what you want to do and get together. So Janine, when you were in Reading, what sort of social things were there for you?
So our cohort was pretty social. We used to have, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was Thursday... New Friday.
Yeah.
So it was drinks every Thursday, and it was an opportunity for us to get together with other young professionals. So not just lawyers, but people in like the banking sector and in
like professional services.
Yeah, professional services. Yeah, so that was one thing, and then we used to organise ad hoc things that we would do as a group. So there's definitely opportunities. As much as you want to get involved, if you want to instigate stuff, go ahead and do that, and people are generally going to jump on it and get involved. So
as a firm, we're really supportive for you to join the local lawyers groups. So like junior lawyers division groups. And like you've got the Manchester trainee solicitors group and that sort of thing, and we do financially fund that for you, your membership as well as a trainee, so you can get involved in that, and there's lots of training available through them, but also social events as well. And then most of our offices, I think, also run a kind of end of month drinks event in the office that often goes outside of the office afterwards as well. So there is lots of things to socialise with your trainee group, but obviously with the wider office as well. So thank you for your question, Hannah. So Danny has asked, what tips would you give parents when they return to work in terms of negotiating the work pattern that they want or need?
So that's a really good question, and one of the things that people often do is think about what they want and need first and say, you know, I want to work 3 days a week, I want to work 4, but what I would encourage you to do is think about that, but also think about the firm and think about knowing the firm and knowing your role. How is your proposal going to impact the firm? If you can think that through first and you can go in with a business case and say, you know, I think I want to work like this and this is how it would impact our clients and this is how I think I can make it work, then that's much more likely to get a yes than if you just go in and have to make HR think about it for you. If they have to think too much, the answer is likely to be, or more likely to be no. So make it easy for them to say yes, set it out, think about it.
Okay, perfect. So come up with the solution and give it to them, basically. Yeah, okay, perfect. Mahima, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, I'm sorry. She is asking, how did taking time off work to start a family affect your career progression?
I don't think it's affected progression as much. It's affected the direction in which I've taken my career, but that's been my choice. And so now I work as legal counsel for a global oil company, and I work closely with the managing director, so my role is quite senior. So the fact that I've taken 2 maternity leaves and taken time to have children hasn't affected my role as a lawyer. So I think if you're intentional about where you want to go with your career, you can still keep moving towards your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason why you can't have it all, I guess.
I don't think
have a career, have a family, have a social life. And Janine, I guess you're an example of that because you've got the career as a lawyer, you've got your own business and podcast, and you've got the family.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you've got the social life as well.
Yeah.
So you have got it all.
Yeah, it is. What I do say is, I know that a lot of people will say it's not possible to have it all. It isn't possible for everything to be balanced all of the time. And so what I encourage people to do is not necessarily think, is my life balanced on a day-to-day basis, but look at it over the course of a month or a quarter, because there are going to be times where work has to take a priority and times where your family will have to take a priority. But if you look at it and say, well, have I spent as much time as I would like with my family this month or this quarter, and have I spent enough time really getting into work? When you do it like that, you're more likely to be able to say yes than if you try and look at it on a day-to-day basis. So it's all about priorities and shifting priorities accordingly to fit everything in. So I like to talk about work-life integration as opposed to work-life balance, because everything's got to fit in the pot together. You just got to figure out what is important at any given moment in time.
So some people might be watching this and thinking, oh, well, you do all these things. It's probably your husband that takes care of the children, and he's picking up all of that bit. So give us a little bit of an insight into how your family setup works.
Yeah, so my husband, he works as a project manager in the healthcare sector, and so my week is set up where I work 3 days a week in my role as a lawyer, and then the other 2 days I'm home with my children. So they go to childcare 3 days. I'm home with them most of the day, and then I tend to take calls and client coaching sessions in the evenings, and we generally share it. So at the beginning of the week we'll say, okay, what have you got on this week? If he's got a lot on in terms of work, then I know that I need to step up. If I've got a lot on, if I've got a lot of appointments, then he will say, okay, let me do drop off or let me do pick up. So it takes a lot of communication and planning, but it is possible. So yeah, he's very hands-on as a father, I must say, so he does help a lot. But yeah, we just make it work together. So we all like throw everything in the pot, what needs to get done, and then we both take up those roles in the home.
Yeah, perfect. I think for me, when I came back from maternity, that was my biggest challenge that I felt I was going to have, because I travel a lot. I go around a lot of the Shoosmiths offices, which means I often have late nights travelling back where I might not be available to do the pick up or drop off. So that communication was key, and it took us a couple of months just to get our heads around it. We were writing everything down at the beginning, but now we just work on the weekly basis and just making sure any like nights away for work or anything we've got in advance. So again, it comes back to being organised and good communication.
Yeah, and I appreciate that my husband does step up and do a lot. If I'm traveling, like I'm going to be going away at the end of the month to Miami for a few days for business, and then I'm like, oh, can I go? But so I'm asking him before I book it, so not assuming that he will pick up and be able to look after the kids. So it's just making sure that you communicate.
Yeah. Is he going to Miami the month after?
No, he's just booked to go to Morocco. Like a few months after, he's like, "You're going to Miami? Well, I'm going to Morocco with the boys."
Fab. Okay, so let's see if we've got any more questions come through. Hannah said thanks for answering her question, and she is actually joining the Reading office as a future trainee.
Yeah, you're gonna love it, Hannah.
So let's see where we got to on here. So I've got a couple of final questions to ask you, and we've talked about can you have it all, and you've said yes you can, but how? What is your top tip for being able to have it all? And we've talked about being organised and good communication. What's your next top tip?
Yeah, so I would say it's important for you to have a vision for what you want life to look like. So there's loads of different ways that you can have work-life balance. So what is important to you? So for some people, they will say, I have to be able to put my child to bed every night. Some people will say, like, I need to be able to, like, take them and do the drop off. Like, what is it that's important to you in terms of your home life? And then also, where are you trying to get to with your career? Once you know where you're heading, then you can work backwards from there and say, like, what do I need to put in place to make sure that those priorities stay priorities? I think that's what a lot of people miss. They just jump in and start doing, but they haven't done the thinking around, well, what is it I'm trying to create here? What do I actually want to do? So I would say that's a really important step to take.
Okay, perfect. And I want to leave you with a couple of final work-life integration top tips of my own, but I think that we have probably mentioned these, but I'll sum some of them up. So being clear about your boundaries, so having those boundaries between when is work, when is home life, when is socialising, and just being a bit more strict with yourself. I think it's really easy, especially when we've got everything on our phones are always in our hands, we're checking emails a lot. So just being really strict with yourself to say, no, this is home time now, and not feeling like you need to check emails all the time. You don't. Most of the time things can wait. And I think saying no sometimes, if you can't fit it in, think about what it means to you as well. I think it's, for home life reasons, it's really easy to say yes to everything because you want to please other people, but think about the things that make you happy and that you can realistically fit in.
Yeah, just when I always say to people with that is, when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to the wrong things, then you're not making space for the things you actually want to do. So.
Yeah. And one of the things I struggle with sometimes is mind space. And I was reading a really lengthy post yesterday that Chrissy Wolf shared on LinkedIn about millennial burnout, and it made a lot of sense. And it was talking about how quite often people say millennials can't do basic things, but actually it's just the way that we've been conditioned now, that we have to be working all the time, that we have to be on all the time, that actually doesn't really leave time for the other things, doesn't leave mind space for the other things. So that's one of my things I'd like to do better this year, is create that mind space, create that time to complete expenses and do that life admin thing that you need to do.
Because it's okay not to be doing doing something all the time. Like, we feel like if we're sat for too long, like, oh, I need to look at my phone, or I need to, like, sometimes you just need to just be, and in that time you're able to be much more productive and much more creative if you give yourself that space.
Well, Janine, thank you so much for joining us on Shoosmiths Live today. We will share the links in the comments at the bottom of this video, and thank you so much for tuning in. It's been really nice to talk about a topic that's a little bit different, but that's close to my heart as well. We are live again on Tuesday, the 22nd of January at 12:30. We're going to be talking about how to choose the right law firm for you, and I'm going to be joined by future trainee Tom Preet, who's going to talk to you about how she made the decision to choose and apply to Shoosmiths. Don't forget that our application form is now open for summer placement and training contract, so you can go to our website shoosmiths.co.uk/graduates, and you can have a look at the application and start the application now. You can start it, save it, come back, so you don't need to submit it straight away. Any final comments?
I would say, if you're thinking about applying to this firm, definitely do it. You'll have an amazing training experience, and if you're thinking about having a family in the long term, it is possible for you to juggle work and family life.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.